Hey, I'm Teja Gerken with Peghead Nation, and I thought I'd transport myself into the mid-70s there for a moment, because the guitar that I'm holding here, which is a Taylor A10E from the company's new Legacy series, has its roots right there at the very early beginning of Taylor guitars. So Taylor is, of course, celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, 2024, and we've had a chance to check out most of the guitars in the 50th anniversary collection that they've released with. And really the latest batch of guitars to come out in this anniversary year is a series that kind of surprised me, honestly. It's the Legacy series, and what we're looking at with these guitars is basically a line of guitars comprised of 5 guitars that takes a look back at sort of the classic Taylor models that have made the company what it is today. And we should have a chance to check out all 5 of them over the next few weeks here. But I thought I'd start with this 810E because the 810 really, in my mind, is the classic Taylor. It's the first actual model that Taylor had when Bob Taylor and Kurt Listock and their third partner took off after getting their start at the American Dream store in San Diego. They basically continued to build the guitars that American Dream had made when they were working there. But slowly they started developing their own models, and the 810 was the quintessential Taylor that they sort of took a look at and said, okay, we're going to make this guitar look like we think it should look. So the 810 was in the line for decades. It was discontinued when the Grand Pacific became the shape of choice for the company's dreadnought instruments. The Grand Pacific is, of course, more of a slope-shouldered dreadnought, where this is more like a traditional square-shouldered dreadnought type shape, which is what the 800, 810 series and earlier Taylor dreadnoughts in general, of course, were. So an 800 series guitar always has had rosewood back and sides. We've got some beautiful Indian rosewood back and sides here. It's got a solid Sitka spruce top. Those are qualities that we've known are part of the 800 series. This guitar also has the typical 800 appointments. We have white binding on the body, white binding on the neck, relatively simple diamond position markers in the fingerboard. Of course, it's an ebony fingerboard and bridge. We have an abalone rosette, the traditional Taylor pickguard. So it clearly looks like an 810 should look. I have played a lot of 810s over the years, but to be honest, it's been a few years since I've held and played a genuine 810, and I'm really enjoying how this guitar feels and sounds, and it kind of brings me right back to what excellent instruments these can be. Now, if you think that what Taylor has done with these legacy guitars is to build exact replicas of the guitars that they used to build, that is not quite correct. Basically, these guitars pay tribute to the earlier instruments, but with a few tweaks that kind of bring them into the present. Most importantly, though, not only does this guitar look like a traditional 810 and has a lot of the traditional appointments, it's also X-braced. Of course, Taylor has switched over to their original V-class bracing for several years now, but with these legacy instruments, they're bringing back the traditional X-bracing. This guitar also has the relief route, which is kind of a route in the top that goes all the way through the perimeter, gives it a little bit more flexibility, which is not something that Taylor did in the very early days, but it's one of the examples of sort of taking the best of these different eras of the earlier pre-V-class bracing days of Taylor and putting them into these guitars. In the case of this instrument, you might notice it has a slightly smaller, different peg head shape than current Taylors do, and that is something that Taylor was using up until the Lemon Grove days, when they had their previous, one of their sort of middle period shops there. And guitar has chrome tuning pegs, which is also something you would have found on earlier 810. I've already mentioned all the appointments that are very similar, if not identical, to earlier 810s. But again, there are some differences. This guitar has the NT neck design, which is the neck design that Taylor started using for, I believe it was their 25th anniversary. So it's been over 20 years, which is, of course, the completely removable bolt-on neck rather than the older design bolt-on neck that only had 2 bolts and a glued-on fingerboard extension. It's a better neck design, and so Taylor decided that even though these guitars are the legacy instruments, they would use this design. If your familiarity with Taylor guitars goes way back, you might remember that for the first 20 years or so, the dreadnought guitars had a slightly more squared shape than this even. This is sort of the traditional dreadnought 2.0 that Taylor at some point introduced, with a slightly more rounded dreadnought body, and so that is what they used on this guitar as well. So not an exact sort of vintage reissue of a guitar that they would have made 50 years ago, but certainly an 810, a dreadnought, an X-braced guitar, and I think tonally it really captures the older Taylor sound. Taylors have always been known for their clarity, so not exactly the sound you would expect from, say, a pre-war dreadnought. But it has that clarity, that great sustain, the great definition that really put Taylor's on the map. And especially for a dreadnought, it sort of created a guitar that is in a category of its own. Perhaps not a full-on bluegrass machine, but a guitar that's very versatile, that works well for strumming, song accompaniment, and even some finger picking. Let me finger pick a little bit on it. And then I had a chance to have Bay Area flatpicker Jim Nunally stop by the studio and play this guitar. So I'll cut to him and playing the guitar a little bit after that too, so you can hear what it sounds like in more of a traditional flat picking style. But let's listen to it play a little bit fingerstyle first. So again, that balance and the tonal definition, and also really quite a nice response, nice dynamic range on this guitar that have always made 810s a very versatile guitar. And even though it's perhaps ironic to be talking about a guitar that celebrates an instrument introduced 50 years ago as being not traditional, but you have to remember that when Taylor came out with these instruments in the mid-70s, they were something very new. They separated themselves from earlier instruments, guitars that we now consider vintage golden era guitars, which at the time were just used guitars, and really created something new and put a path forward. And that is really what this guitar represents. Let's listen to Jim Nunally playing the guitar with a flat pick in kind of more of a traditional flat picking style. Now, another thing where Taylor has departed from its current instruments with these legacy series instruments is they're not using their NT2 electronics. They are using LR Baggs Element electronics. And Taylor worked with several different pickup manufacturers before they came up with their own ES system, Baggs being one of them. And in most cases, they used an undersaddle pickup, which is what this is. The Baggs Element is a system that's been around for quite a while. It's a very simple system, undersaddle pickup installed in the bridge, a little sound hole mounted control module for volume and tone, and a simple 1/4-inch output and 9-volt battery to power the system inside. So I'm going to go out and show you what the guitar sounds like with this pickup system plugged into our Fishman Loudbox mini amp. And I'm really looking forward to playing the remaining instruments in the Legacy line. There's 2 jumbos, an 815 and an 855 12-string, and 2 grand auditoriums, a 514C and a 714C. And we're going to have a chance to check all those out, and it's kind of fun to take a step back and play some instruments that celebrate sort of the developing years of Taylor guitars. So my name is Teja Gerken. I hope you've enjoyed this video and this look at a classic recreation of a great Taylor guitar. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, I hope you come over to pegheadnation.com, not just for our gear demos, but a wide range of courses, not just for guitar, but many stringed and fretted instruments. We'd love to welcome you there. Again, my name is Teja Gerken. Let's listen to the guitar plugged into the amp, and I hope to see you very soon.